dynamics related to that. It's very important that any research we do, whether that is academics, whether that is scientific, the onus and the importance of leading some of the breakthrough novel ideas or introduction of novel ideas always come from those who are on the ground, those who are in operations. So I have a stellar panel with me, and I'm actually a miniature component over here. Sorry you have been bored seeing me since morning here on the dais, but I'm doing only a ceremonial job over here. And in this panel, we have four stellar people, practitioners, professionals who have profound knowledge of the field, which is China. And they come from respective fields. We have Mr. Ravi Shankar Bose, who is the co-founder and director of Fugu Mobile. Then we have CR Raghuram Chandran, who is the CEO of ACE Macromatic International. We have Divay Pranav, who is the head mobility domain, Hyundai Mobile India Limited. He was also worked with Invest India. I shouldn't disclose it, but the one who actually got a lot of Chinese investments. Or maybe we're trying to tell Chinese to come to India. And then we have Mr. Panikiran Imaneni, who spent a long career in China. As you know, it was Venkat told yesterday about he heading the operations for both SBI and ICICI. So we have four prominent speakers over here, and the format is very simple. Each speaker will have about 10 minutes. We'll just follow what happened in the last session. After four speakers finish 10 minutes each, we will go into the second round, where I have a couple of comments, and then they will try to answer them, and then we'll open the floor for question and answers. So can I request Mr. Ravi Shankar Bose now, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Arvind, and good evening, everyone, distinguished panelists, and everyone in the audience today. It is my pleasure to be here at the 18th AICCS conference organized by IIM Indore and the ICS. And a special thanks to Professor Venkat and Professor Acharya as well, who have invited me here. With Professor Venkat, of course, I've collaborated many times before on many initiatives, this being the latest one. I'd also like to mention and acknowledge my mother, who is here. She has traveled all the way from Calcutta to be here at this conference. She's a very keen observer of the India-China ties. Just to give you a background about myself so that we can talk a little bit more about my context. I'm a technologist, strategist, and a digital entrepreneur. I've spent the last 25 years in China, leading many companies, as well as founding many digital ventures. In this context, I'd first gone to China in the year 2000, where I was part of a company which was a joint venture between SoftBank and Siemens Mobile, looking after internet technology. And in 2006, this company got acquired by Disney. Of course, like anything else in China, the reason Disney acquired this company was because they could not enter through the traditional route of acquiring through a TV channel, which is what they generally do in any country. But China being different, and with the regulations, they chose the way of entering China with internet. So that was how I became part of Disney as part of the acquisition. And post the Disney acquisition, I came out of Disney and started a digital solutions company called Fugu Mobile in 2006. It's been 18 years that I've been running this company. During this time in China, as well as my experience in India, and now we have also expanded to the US, during this time across these three geographies, I've seen challenges as well as opportunities in digital innovation, localization, as well as cross-border platforms, particularly between China and India. And again, this journey of mine has been documented as a case study co-authored by, again, Professor Venkat, who is here. Professor Bhavani is also here. Professor Rama who is here. This has been documented as a case study, and it's been part of the IIM Indore Case Center, as well as in SEEDS with the China European Business Management Institute, as well as in Harvard Business Review, as well as IB publication. Before I get into the topic of digital transformation and AI, which China has been focusing very strongly, I would like to take a little bit of a time to look at, to revisit the canvas of digital transformation on what's been happening. Digital transformation today spans connectivity, cloud infrastructure, data platforms, applications, and large ecosystem of users, services, and markets. If you look at China, they have a very large integrated platform. Now, if you look at China, if you look at social media in China, you have Tencent's WeChat, you have emerging platforms like Xiaohongshu, or what we call as Red Note now, across the globe. You have TikTok, which everyone has heard about, but not experienced so much in India. So you can see the ecosystem is quite large when you look at social media. And similarly, when you look at e-commerce, you have Tmall, which everyone knows, Alibaba's platform, you have JD.com. But interestingly, you also have to look at emerging platforms like Temu, Shein, which are cross-border platforms, and they are making a lot of impact globally. And I think Shein is coming back into India with one of the Indian conglomerates. So from a integrated platforms point of view, you have social media, you have e-commerce, and now you have AI. And probably everyone has heard about DeepSeek and the impact that DeepSeek is making, but it is not only DeepSeek that is making an impact. You have companies like Alibaba, which is again a large company, and they have come out with models like QN. And again, we're not talking about just China, we're talking about the impact that they are making globally and from an open source point of view, which many of the US competitors do not have. So again, the approach is quite different. Similarly, if you look at the Indian ecosystem, we look at the Indian ecosystem from a digital public infrastructure point of view. What we have done with creating the national ID, Aadhaar, taking it further with UPI, and now we are talking about ONDC, which is the e-commerce platform. The digital public infrastructure that India has done is unparalleled in the world. No other country, not even China, has this. In fact, with some numbers, the number of transactions which are happening in UPI actually are more than what is happening in digital transactions on a single platform in China. So obviously, both the countries have taken two different approaches. But the important thing to note here is innovation with scale. No other country has this precedence, what India and China has done. Different routes, but innovation with the scale of the number of users that these countries have. So that's an important thing to consider when we look at digital transformation across both the countries. But we also look at things like on the regulatory and governance side, digital sovereignty, which is something which is very important when we talk about digital data, cybersecurity, data flows between cross-border countries, platform power, and cross-border interoperability, which is a very important topic when we talk about the digital ecosystem between India and China particularly. These are becoming increasingly strategic. In the India-China context, these questions are urgent. Who sets the standards? And I think in the previous topic somebody talked about this as well. How is the data governed? How fluid are the digital services across border? And we all know now the digital services between China and India, there are very limited digital services between China and India right now. In 2020, when most of the services got blocked, it is still blocked even now. So there has to be a way of figuring out what are those digital services which can be accessed cross-border, both from India side and China side as well. As India positions itself in the digital economy, these foundational elements matter deeply. Strong infrastructure, interoperable systems, trusted governance, and user-friendly platforms. This is more about the digital transformation. Now I will look at a little bit more on what is happening on AI. And arguably, the most dynamic layer when we talk about digital transformation. And throughout the day, we heard a lot about the fourth plenum, which just concluded in China. The plenum is basically a forum where the top Chinese leaderships comes together and they draft policies for future. And in this particular case, the policies for the next 5-year plan, which is 2026 to 2030, was a very important component. And one of the factors that they stressed upon, generally they will always stress upon GDP numbers. Even that parameter is changing a bit now. They are talking a bit more about per capita GDP numbers. But one of the parameters that they talked about in the growth was the quality of growth. And in this quality of growth, they are focused a lot on technological innovation. And where is this innovation going to come? A big focus is on AI. And that is why you see the drive towards the Chinese companies to compete with American companies like OpenAI or Google. So this has been a big shift in terms of competing head-on with the leaders, because they want to take a leadership space in the context of AI. And the quote, China has declared that the coming years are a critical, decisive period for securing global competitiveness in AI and related fields such as semiconductors and computing infrastructure. These are huge investments that has to be made. Computing infrastructure is something, particularly in the case of AI, where huge investments have to be made. And in that context, just in 2025, China has invested close to $125 billion in AI. Part of it has come from the government, which is 40%. But even if you look at what has come from the private sector, it is a huge investment. Where is this investment going? It's not just about creating the China infrastructure. A lot of it is also importing technology from outside. If you look at, and we talk about DeepSeek and what DeepSeek has done, but if you look at even if what they have done is not on the latest NVIDIA chips, but these are still NVIDIA chips, which have been imported on a huge cost. So it's important to understand that the collaboration and the business is still going on, even with the tariffs and the restrictions and everything. And that's the backbone of how it is still progressing. China's AI ecosystem also benefits from a very high publication and patent filings. We all have talked about this, but this is also something which is important in terms of the researchers and the students doing a lot of research and in terms of patent filings. What has also come out of the plenum is something that China has been emphasizing from a key strategic dimension: independent and controllable AI systems. If you look at this, independent and controllable, this is already conflicting. Independent and controllable. So you have to look at what's independent. Independent from Western dependencies. That is what they mean by independent. Controllable, as per the China regulations, the government should have control over the AI systems, the data, the foundation models. That is what they mean by controllable. So it is independent as well as controllable. That is what is what has come out of the plenum from an AI perspective. Why this matters? The volume in investment shows China is already doubling down on AI as a national agenda, not just a commercial one. With access to data, platforms, a large domestic market, and a strong government coordination, China sees a path to convert digital scale into AI leadership. From India's positioning in this context, where do we focus? India has the strengths, a large and diverse digital market, one of the largest in the world. And I spoke about this earlier, the digital public infrastructure and what has already happened with Aadhaar, with UPI, what's happening with ONDC, so that there's a building block which is already there, and we should build on that. Strong delivery capabilities, this we already know, India is very strong on IT services. We need to leverage these strengths on AI to build domain-specific AI models. We are a little bit behind when it comes to foundational models, and China and the US have taken a lead. So we have to look at domain-specific AI models like health agriculture, education, governance. These would matter locally but also globally. And there is a huge, huge opportunity for India to lead in this particular space. We also call them as SLMs. Now, you've heard a lot about LLMs, but SLMs is a new thing where India can really take a lead on this. Strengthen compute and model capacity, perhaps in partnership, because this is again a space where it's very difficult for one country to really lead. But here it is something where we need partnerships. We have to look at partnership, whether we can form partnerships with US or even with China under, of course, controllable situation. Now, if you look at in the past week, there's a big news which has come in with Google investing close to $15 billion in China in data management for AI. Now, this is very critical. Why is Google investing such a big amount in India, particularly on the AI space? The reason is simple, because India has the talent and India has the data, which is very critical. We have to really look very closely, why has Google done it? Even with all the tariff wars and even with the thinking behind putting all this into the US.
Ravi, in a minute, actually, if you can.
Yeah. So again, there is a lot of scope for India to work well on the AI and to lead. Potential collaboration between India and China. Of course, there is a potential on tackling region-specific AIs, and particularly what we talked about, domain-specific multilingual models, agricultural AI, climate, air quality modeling, because both India and China have large data sets, large teams and context, but there must be guardrails. This is something where we have to be very, very selective on how and where we partner. We do need to partner, but how, where, and the guardrails must be there in terms of how India partners with China. India must think selective engagement and robust capability building. Thank you, and I look forward to the discussions.
Now, so moving to the next speaker, can I then, okay, I just need to request Raghu then. Raghu is going to speak on interesting title he has called Chibra, Contrast Between India and Bharat Manufacturing Landscape. So, over to you, Raghu.
Good evening all. It's been an honor to be here to present and discuss on manufacturing and landscape at the 18th AICC Summit. I'd like to thank the organizers and especially Professor Venkat for having me here. Just to give a context of manufacturing and the area I come from so that you can understand specifically what this machine tool machinery and how it impacts manufacturing. Machine tool is an industry where you look at removing the metals. The context which I come from is represent a company called S Micromatic, which owns about 1/3 of the space in India, which is to simplify it, any automobile which is manufactured in India, at least 3 or 4 components pass through our machine. So one of the reasons for us to get into China, which is when we started in 2005, because we are limited by Indian geography as a growth market. Point number 1. Point number 2, there's always a ghost that China is coming. So we would like to see what's actually happening in the space in China for us. So just to shift the gear, we discussed about so many things on automobile, specifically on EV space. Global automotive market is roughly about 100 million. It's hovering between 95 to 100. China holds 30% of the market. 30 million is produced or consumed in China. Then look at the size of manufacturing has to be our consumption of machine tool. In India, we do about 5 to 6 million automotive as a consumption, and for which we look at about $4 billion of machine tool, of which 1/3 comes from our group. China consumes about $27 billion of machine tool. And this is one area, fortunately, it is a net importer, continues to be net importer, similar to what India is. So when we are about 4 billion, we import about $2 billion of machine tool. China is about 27 billion, it still imports about $2 billion of machine tool. That means 25 billion is manufactured in India, so China. So what changed the gear when we touched upon the point of the consumption of automotive? If you look at 2008 or 9, China was in the scale of about 10 billion, roughly about 8 to 10 million of automotive. The change in gear for China started with two things. One is rationalizing the taxes where the consumption can be spurred. Point number two is the faster urbanization. So these two pivoted the speed of manufacturing. So when we talk about China anywhere, we associate China with scale and speed. That is what is happening even in manufacturing space. From 10 million vehicle manufacturing to 30 million vehicle consumption, which is about 30% of global market. This also talks about infrastructure growth, not only pivoting people movement, but also movement of goods, movement of manufacturing, creation of ecosystem, which China is far ahead with anybody else in the world. It also underlined the importance of government, Chinese government, in building, manufacturing, and pivoting the movement of goods and people. For example, to give, in 2008, they invested, that was, we all know Lehman Brothers one. They invested close to about $500 billion on high-speed train, which created a new form of society. And I'll give our own experience. We were in Shanghai. If I have to do service of machine in Nanjing, we are contemplating to put a office in Nanjing, which is about a day's journey. With a new railway coming up, it shrank the complete ecosystem, complete geography from 4-hour journey to 1.5-hour journey. So it became a day's trip for us to go to Nanjing and come back. If it is going to be Nanjing is at 1.5 hour, look at Kunshan, look at Suzhou, Wuxi. See, this ecosystem, it's completely changed for manufacturing, movement of goods, movement of technology. When I mean technology, let's say even fixturing, tooling. So this pivoted to be cost-effective of manufacturing solutions. Next, I also want to touch upon the agility of manufacturing. When we sell these machines in India or anywhere else in the world, these machines are consumed for one particular part or one particular industry. Just to give an example, in China, if I sell a machine, possibly they use it for manufacturing the first grade premium mobile handset, and it boils down to second, third, fourth, and finally it comes to a Chinese handset manufacturing. But when that production goes off, it is being retooled, which has been refixtured for manufacturing buckles, belt buckles, or higher-end luxury good products. It not only talks about the manufacturing strength, but more importantly, the ecosystem and the skills which people have got. The talents we have. So even today, when the largest luxury manufacturer of mobile has not yet moved even 10% of their production away from China. It's not so easy. I don't think even in next 5 years they have a plans. Even they are investing so much in India. That is a kind of an ecosystem and talents which is available in China. And to develop that kind of a talent, develop that kind of ecosystem in India, it will take at least a decade. Other example, we always look at other word apart from speed and scale. The word which we associate with China is cheap and copy. We have to look back from the manufacturing point of view. If somebody have to manufacture a luxury watch, the amount of engineering which has to go back, right from copying the design, right from making the mold, right to manufacturing, producing in volume, assembly, distribution. What happens is this creates an ecosystem. That is what we lack in India. That doesn't mean that we need to go for a copy system, but imitation and innovation. That's what somebody was talking in another session. We don't have that scale. We don't have that kind of a ability and capability in India to do that. That's the next example. If you look at a place called Yuhuan in Zhejiang province in China, they say they are the largest valve manufacturers in the world. So today, close to 90% of any facets globally which has been done, you will have a valve which has been produced in Yuhuan. That is the scale, size China has got. Having seen this, the global manufacturers of facets have started collaborating with them instead of competing, because they can never compete in terms of the size, scale, or the competitive price they have. So these are all the real strength of China which we have seen. Now, what we should do in India for that? We also have, of late, created a success factor. If you take two-wheeler, we are talking about automobile. In two-wheeler today, we have created such a scale that if tomorrow Indian export has to stop, there is going to be a vacuum in at least 50 countries. That is where the strength we have. And association of China with this two-wheeler market is less than 3%. We use less than 3%, 3 to 5% of component in two-wheeler manufacturing. The strength is not on the product, but also on the ecosystem which we have created in the market which we operate. It is not the cheapest product which we sell, but the product which we sell comes with a trust and also with the services of warranty, which Chinese doesn't do it. Having said that, as we all know, China today contributes over 28% of global manufacturing output, making it undisputed factory of the world. On the other hand, India contributes about 3%, despite being one of the fastest growing economy. Numbers provide more important perspective, but deeply appreciate the divergence in their journeys. It is essential to recognize that both the nations began from similar point in late 1970s, largely agrarian society. But let's take, this is the common point of departure, underscores how China and India later development have influenced by different decisions and circumstances which we deliberated, right from policy to government to the societies. But as we stand today, specifically, machine tool consumption in China has declined substantially from peak of $40 billion per annum to $27 billion, still continuing to import. Whereas India, consumption is ascending from $1 billion to $4 billion. Though it is a long way as a country to become a manufacturing powerhouse, but we can certainly become one if as an industry point of view. We always ask, though we are operating in China for the last 20 years, we sell made in India product in China. It doesn't, we are crisscrossed brand India, we are crisscrossed whatever technological range. The important question a customer asks me is, what is this value your product can give better than a Chinese product or a product from other Asian nation? So as an industry, we need to think deeply, what is the innovation and export competitiveness we can provide for a global market, including China, where we should compete. And for us, if we don't compete in China, we are not competitive elsewhere in the world. That's what we are looking at, because we need to face the same competition elsewhere in the world. That's one of the reasons where we are. Point number two, when I said that skill and ecosystem, More importantly, at least in manufacturing, we have a deep divide or a gap between academia and the industry, which we need to be strengthened. So China is ruling manufacturing not because of price competitiveness. It is because of talents, which has been built over the last 20-25 years. That's what we need to do. From the government point of view, it has to enable pivot how competitiveness can be bought into Indian goods. An example of, I could talk about infrastructure. If whatever the component which we manufacture in Jiaxing to come to Pudong or the Vaigacho, it takes hardly about 2 hours. For me to ship the machine either from Bangalore to Chennai, it takes more than 18 hours or 20 hours. So where we lose our competitiveness. So these are all the areas where we need to function together, and we need to bring in the transformation, be it with industry, academia, and government. Concluding, from India can grow from potential to powerhouse. India stands where China stood in early 2000s or late 90s. That's what we could see, at least from my point of view, being in China for a long time. At least in manufacturing, at least in terms of manufacturing productivity. But unlike China, we need to do sustainably and democratically. Challenge is not about capability, it is more about coordination between various organizations, facets and stakeholders, and with speed. This is what I would like to underline upon, and that for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Raghu. That was really fantastic. I really like the example you said, how infrastructure high speed has inversed the quantum reality. It used to take time to travel between cities, but it takes a few hours now to travel between the cities. That really squeezes out the time and space you're looking for. That reminds me of the Ant-Man movie. They flip the coin. Things turn big and small. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that. Now we have Divai, who is going to speak on gears of growth, comparing China and India's automotive journey. Divai, the floor is yours.
Hello everyone. So I'm going to skip the speech. I'm not very good at it. And also I'm someone who thinks in bullet points and keywords. So I'm not very good at giving long speeches and everything. So I'm going to ask a small quiz for you, because I think some of the data points have been shared by my co-panelists. How many cars are sold in China every year? He just shared that number twice in his speech.
30 billion. 30 billion.
Billion? Million?
30 million.
30 million. So exact number is 31.5. 3 crore 15 lakh last year. इंडिया में कितना बिकता है? 1 million? 5 million? That's close. So we sell 43 lakhs. We sold 43 lakhs last year, the entire industry together. How many cars are sold in US every year? That's close. 1.5 crore. So China is 3.15 crore. US is 1.5 crore. India is 43 lakhs. Right? So now another question. Is electric vehicle the only thing that we should be scared about? Is that the only technology? Because I can tell you, I work with a Korean company now. Chinese companies are a nightmare for us, because the way they are working relentlessly, every month there is a new refresh model in the market, there is new buzz in the market. So imagine dealerships, they have so much to sell, new features, attractive styles, new interiors, new experiences, right? So that's what sells in the market, right? So do you think electric vehicles is the only thing that we are worried about? Electric vehicles are easy to do. So anyone in the world, GM, Ford, Stellantis, Hyundai, Kia, they have been making automobiles for the last 50 years. Why should we be worried about it? We'll buy battery from somebody, buy motors from somebody else. We know already how to make a body. So do you think that's a real challenge? Because I heard so much about electric vehicles. Is that the real challenge?
Even if you make the body, you need for the motor, you need to buy rear magnet. For the windshield, for the coating, for that also you need a different rear end. So for any component, ultimately it will come back to the primary source.
But we can always engineer. The rare earth is not the only way to make a motor, right? We can always design a motor, but that doesn't require it.
But again, will it, for example, hydrogen cars are a concept car, but can they be commercialized at scale at this point
Why
of
not?
time?
Same question was being asked about EV 10 years back, but we have done it. So we can do that for hydrogen as well. Maybe something else as well. I recently visited a startup founded by, I do a lot of work with startups, by the way. I am associated with the Startup Incubation Hub of IIM Bangalore. I work with a lot of startups. So I visited a startup in Gurgaon, founded by a founder from IIT Delhi. They are making aluminium air battery. So you just need to put aluminium in the casing, and then it interacts with the oxygen, and then current production starts. Right? You don't need even lithium ion. Forget about mining and all. Aluminium we have enough. So if we master that technology, we don't need to rely on China. And somebody said in the morning that whenever there is a new challenge, we always figure out a way, solve it from an engineering lens, solve that problem, figure out alternative ways of achieving our targets, right? So the real challenge, I'll tell you, I'll give you a different terminology today. It's called software defined vehicle, SDV. That is the core problem which industry doesn't have an answer to. And why China is able to do this and not anybody else? Why not Toyota or Honda, Renault, Nissan, Hyundai, Kia? They're all struggling to make one. Even Germans are struggling to make one. And Chinese are able to do it. And that's where all these three gentlemen sitting here, they have the answer to it. You know, China got so good at the smartphone technology. They got very good at their Tencents, WeChats, Alibaba. They got very good at developing new technologies on the software side of things. So Huawei, for example, has an operating system called Harmony OS, which is killing everybody in the automotive industry. It is so good that once you integrate that operating system in a car, your car becomes as good as a smartphone on wheels. So the software-defined vehicle, cracking this mystery is a big puzzle which auto OEMs are struggling to do. And the reason being that for the last 50, 60 years, automotive is all about mechanical engineering. We know how to make a nice body, we know to control the electrical systems, we know how the drivetrain, transmission, suspension, brakes, how these technologies work. So all auto companies, whoever are in top 10, 15, they know they have cracked these 9 or 10 systems which are integral part of every automobile. But when it comes to SDV, then things are very different. How to integrate hardware with software is a puzzle which auto companies really struggle because they don't have the right talent for it. Also, because of all the legacy issues which exist in auto companies, they find it very tough to handle it. And I'll tell you an implication of it. How much time do you think making a new car, right from concept to production? There is a term called start of production, SOP. So from concept, the day somebody thought that a new car should be out in the market, to the day when you actually start producing that car in the factory, how much time do you think is taken by the industry on an average? 6 months. Anybody else?
3 years.
3 years. Anybody else?
1 year.
1 year.
3 years.
3 years. So the answer is 4 years. Germans, Japanese, Koreans, and even Americans, 48 months is the minimum time required from concept to production. Chinese are doing this in 24 months. I don't know how. They are cutting corners or what kind of re-engineering they have done, God knows. But in 24 months, they are able to produce a new car. And imagine, look at this from the lens of a customer, right? So I'm the one who is using the latest iPhone 17 Pro, right? When I enter in my car, I want the same experience. I want the infotainment in the car to work as smooth as an iPhone, right? And if someone has made a car which is now hitting the showrooms, 4 years back it was conceptualized, then you can imagine that that car will no longer meet the requirements, evolving, emerging needs of the customers. And in this conference, there has been so much debate about like how Xi Jinping's government is writing blank checks to auto companies, so much of subsidy. By the way, $27 billion. There was a question on FAME subsidy. $27 billion have been given by Chinese government to the electric vehicle industry in China. In India, FAME 2 was only 10,000 crores, roughly $1.2 billion. So peanuts compared to what Chinese are doing, right? So it's not only about that Chinese government is giving. So you can give a lot of money to a dumb company and they will end up producing nothing, right? So Chinese have mastered the craft of producing products which customers are willing to buy. In auto industry, we use a terminology called white space. So whenever we have to launch a new car, so for example in India, SUV is a terminology you would have heard that SUV is the next big thing. Almost 70% of the cars being sold in India are SUVs. But there is a new term which is coming up now. It's called MPV, multi-purpose vehicle. So these are like 7-seaters. I would say Toyota Innova falls in that category. Kia Carens falls in that category. So this is a white space which auto companies are now identifying that evolving customer needs. We want to travel with a family together. We need a bigger car. We want to use our car for multiple purposes, right? So Chinese people and the Chinese companies like BYD are very good at understanding the evolving needs of the customers, matching it with best of the semiconductors, power electronics, controllers, and host of other batteries, charging systems, and producing a product which customers are willing to buy in a particular price band. Only if you get this metrics right, your car will sell in the market. And nobody has endless pool of money. So if a car is being produced, eventually it must get sold somewhere. So overcapacities or whatever things are there, those challenges are there in the Chinese market. So I don't think they would sustain for long because eventually a car has to be sold. If you sell it in the domestic market, well and good. Otherwise, you have to look for the international markets where it can be done. So Chinese companies are very good at doing it, to my understanding, and that is something which everybody in the auto industry is extremely concerned about. It's not only about electric vehicles; it's about software-defined vehicles. So this power combo of suddenly a smartphone manufacturer like Xiaomi coming and starting making a car, right? So people have taken ages to even Mahindras and Tatas. See, Mahindra is building cars since 1970s. It's only now where they have really learned the art of making good electric vehicles or smart vehicles which customers are willing to buy. It takes time to learn these things. Very complicated stuff to learn. Even to weld a roof of a car properly, so much tech goes into it, and there are so many proprietary technologies that water doesn't leak from the roof of the car. So it takes ages to do that. But Indian companies slowly and steadily are learning it, but Chinese have done this in only 2-3 years. Xiaomi launched first car in 2024, and now they are producing the best car in the world, which is also the fastest. So we must acknowledge that, and that's also a topic of research. What is really happening in the Chinese auto industry, that they're able to completely redo the car production process, planning and production process, which nobody else in the world is able to do. So what is that uniqueness which they are bringing to the table? Is a topic for research, and we should try and understand that. All auto companies are now back to the drawing board. They are saying, they're questioning that why 48 months? Why can't we do it in 24 months, right? Because every month saved is actually money being saved, your R&D cost being saved, and all of that would be passed on to the customers or would add up to your margin so that you become a profitable automotive manufacturing setup. So I think that is China's uniqueness. And let me explain you a little bit because what exactly this SDV means with some examples to you. So how many of you drive a car or comfortable driving a car? Yeah, so very few hands. The reason being that this combination of the clutch, brake and accelerator which I call ABC of driving, it's a very tough thing to learn, right? So especially mastering the clutch. When I started learning driving, so mastering the clutch, it has to be slowly and steadily. You have to lift your feet, right? And suddenly, if there is somebody in front of your car, then you have to quickly apply brakes. So these are fine motor skills that you have to learn at the age of 18, 19, 20, and it's a mystery. It's very, very tough to do, and a lot of people still struggle to master it. But very interestingly, do you know an electric vehicle doesn't have one of these by default? Which element is not there in electric car?
Here.
There is no clutch. By default, there is no clutch in an electric car. The clutch function and the gear function is being taken care of by the electronics which are sitting in the car. They are that power has been taken away from the driver and it has been given to the vehicle. And very recently, I drove a Tesla in Delhi. So they've recently launched their showroom, and those of you who have experienced it elsewhere, they have a very unique function. You can also eliminate the usage of brake. So you can eliminate the usage of brake. Only thing that is left is accelerator. And accelerator is never a problem. We all love to press accelerator in a car. That's the human psychology. The biggest problem is clutch. The next big problem is brake. I drove a lot in Bangalore. I stayed there for 3 years. And my knees started hurting because every hour, like 3-hour journey from one direction. And the biggest problem was like pressing the brake. I had the automatic car, but pressing the brake in itself was a big challenge for me. But with this Tesla, I realized that the software-defined vehicle, the software takes all that discretion away from you. It just uses the cameras and the lidars to see that who is in front of the car and will automatically apply the brake. And slowly and steadily, the speed function will also be taken away from you. And that is called autonomous driving, when there is nobody sitting in the driver's seat, right? So automatic took the clutch, SDV took the brake away, and a more advanced version of it, which is autonomous, would take all three functions away from you. In fact, you can just simply relax, sit at the back, enjoy the beautiful in-cabin experience. And that's what Chinese are mastering. Chinese have realized that people spend so much time in the car. And that's the only me time. And for me, in my life, the time that I spend from my office to home, that's the only me time I have. So if my car can help me improvise that experience through superior infotainments, podcast, maybe something other interesting stuff, maybe some other innovations happening in the consumer electronics industry. If that can be part of the car, I might buy it today, but I would want my car to keep upgrading, like an iPhone, right? I buy it today, but with the new software OTA updates. OTA is over-the-air updates. So your car is also connected. Car is connected through internet. So I can code a software and I can release it, and then you can just update like we do it on our phone. We keep updating and refreshing our apps. Our car can also be updated so that I get the latest experience, whatever is happening in the world. So these are the three things. SDV, connected vehicles, which can help me get the OTA updates, and the autonomous driving. These are the three things which are the biggest challenge for the auto industry, because this requires very deep software expertise. And this is what China somehow is able to defeat everybody else in the world. But having said that, I think we always over-appreciate China in conferences like this. We should also appreciate Indian companies. So I feel that what Mahindra is doing right now in the car industry, we should be very, very proud of it. From a technological standpoint, I'm telling. Excellent designs. Not sure you saw their car, XEV9, BE6, absolutely out of the world experience. These cars are offering at price points which our Indian customers can afford. Likewise, in the two-wheeler space, I feel what Ather Energy is doing. It's a Bangalore-based startup, founded in IIT Madras. Absolutely world-class. I'm an Ather owner. Not even for a single minute since purchasing that two-wheeler, I faced an issue. Excellent company. Completely made in India. All the components localized to large extent. continuing to localize more. Within the three-wheeler space and two-wheeler space, again, a great story is TVS Motors. TVS, you'll be surprised. We always look up to BMW as the best in the world. TVS has been manufacturing motorcycles for BMW since 2010. And those motorcycles are completely designed, manufactured, even the components have been locally designed in India by TVS Motors. So absolutely world-class work. It's called TVS Apache. They also sell that in the Indian market. So a lot of good stuff happening, but not at the speed at which Chinese are doing it. That's the unfortunate bit. And that's what we do. So, thank you.
Thank you, Devan. Smart mobility and smart presentations, I think. And also, that reminds me that you have to stay awake, answer questions. You never know from where the question is popping up. Another day we were traveling in the plane and the air hostess was speaking something in Hindi, and after she explained everything and she said, "Kitna kilo ka darwaza tha?" I really don't know that. You never pay attention to these announcements, right? The door you have to just exit door is a 15 kgs actually. Then I realized that you have to really pay attention to all the instructions, and especially presentation like this. Small detailing, He picked up the details what Raghu presented and started from there. Fantastic. I have two questions for you, but I'll come to that later. You see that this session is so interesting. Now we have another last speaker, very interesting one. Pani, can you please come forward? He's going to speak about towards Atmanirbhar Bharat, building on China's manufacturing blueprint. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I am Indore. I'm convener for Venkat and my co-convener, Alvin. It's a privilege to be in the midst of all of you. So far, all of them have been on the tech side, but I, being a banker and who spent some time in it, I'll be a little bit different from what they have spoken. So, having spent some time and having interacted with so many businessmen and all, and India, after the PLI scheme and the Atmanirbhar program that has come up, I just thought I'll make a bit of comparison. While talking, a lot of things happen that China is like this, China is like that. There are a lot of cues what I thought we can still take it and make it as part of our culture that can take us forward. My today's talk will be on 4 I's, the alphabet I, and 4 P's. To start with, the first I, as a banker, will be the interest part. See, any business needs a level playing field. While technology is one side on it, money matters a lot. So, when we see on the Indian context, vis-a-vis the Chinese context or a Western nation concept, capital formation is very expensive in India. Second thing is the land. So if you have to establish something in India, both land plus the loan what you're taking itself takes a lot of money. Whereas in China, the advantage they have is the land is given on the leasehold rights. So your investment itself, part of it is eased out because you'll be paying only a rental on an annual basis, but you'll not be buying the land. So it makes a lot of difference. Second part is on investment. So we make a lot of things. So first, when I landed in China in 2005, when I was setting up the bank, there were only 2 questions asked when all the entrepreneurs used to come, especially investors out of curiosity to come into China. Only 2 questions were asked by the government. What is the quantum of FDI you are bringing into the country? And how many people will get an employment with your investment? If your investment is going to bring at least more than 100 or 200 people, so you had a red carpet welcome. Basically, the point I want to raise is, of course, today in today's context, even pollution may be a third point what we have to question. So once that investment part is very clear, it used to be the government officials' target to get things done and licenses getting done, everything to be done and given within the time span. This looks simple, But when I compare, like China is a fully Mandarin speaking country, licenses are not less. There used to be 14 licenses for a manufacturing company to get it. I know if I am an entrepreneur, if I go to China, I have to invest money, I have to get 14 licenses. Where will I run around 14 offices? The government official used to call and tell us, look, recruit this one person and pay rupees 5,000 RMB or something. He will run around and get all the licenses for you. And the licensing system is so, the smartness is, you don't go by the date of submission, you go by the date of acknowledgement. When I say that acknowledgement, when I go and submit a paper, he may take it, the official may take it or may not take it. That is not an acknowledgement. He will go through the papers, and if he accepts the papers, that means that is the date of acknowledgement. From that day, you are assured that you will be getting the approval on the 14th day or 15th day. So, if you are a businessman, you want to set up something, you had a clarity of thought that for me, okay, next 1 month I am recruiting this person, next 3 months I am recruiting a person, I pay some 5,000 or 10,000 rupees and it will be done, it is acknowledged. So, I have to get my investment money and then start doing. The third I is on the infrastructure. Whenever a businessman from India used to come, he used to go talk to an entrepreneur in China and say, the deal is done, everything, price is fixed, everything is done. And then comes the picture, when will it be delivered? The first question he'll ask you is, in which Indian port you want to deliver it? Whether you want it on the east coast or on the west coast. East coast means Visakhapatnam or Chennai. If it is the west coast, it will be either Kochi or Kandla or Mumbai, Navasheva. Once you tell him, because there will be a difference of 4 or 5 days between east and west, then he'll work backwards and tell you, saying that it takes 10 days to reach on the eastern side, it will take 14 days. The ship is available on such and such, he'll work backwards. My production is from this day to this day. Packing will take 2 days, add 2 days. Another thing is from here to the shipment to the port will take so many 2 days or 3 days because it's logistics, supply chain, and it goes on the ship. So he had a very end-to-end definite process to tell people, look, your goods will be delivered on such and such date in India, Indian port. From there, how you take it, that is your problem. So that is the level of infrastructure. When I mean infrastructure, that is an end-to-end supply chain, availability of the shipment, and all these are taken care of. And the fourth I is innovation. And innovation, the biggest competitor for China is China itself. While we are talking about many countries competing, today I feel it, somebody was saying in the afternoon section, driven by state funding and local innovation, it is within themselves the competition is too high. Chinese concept may not be an inventor, but once a product is in their hand, they know how to do a reverse engineering. They know means it is in their curiosity or whatever you call it. They know how to do the reverse engineering and change the shape, etc. But the product, finally, the benefit of the product or the usage of the product will be the same. Or it may be even the first producer of the product, if it's or the inventor, even he may not be able to prove that that is a product which he has manufactured. That is the innovation that is going in the country. So there is no wonder if the EV cars or batteries are being sold at a so low rate. During the interaction, I used to ask why you are buying a battery when you are one of the large conglomerate who are into solar here, who is having a manufacturing plant, but still supplies are coming. He says, look, I am manufacturing, I get a wafer at 25 cents in India. My manufacturing cost in India is 25 cents. India has applied an anti-dumping duty or protection duty, something of some 60%. But still, the Chinese guy is supplying me at 10 cents, even after adding 60%, which is 16 cents. That even add the transport, etc., it is less than 20 cents. So that is the amount of this thing that happens. So it may be due to state funding or it may be due to subsidy, export subsidies. whatever it might be, that is the amount of innovation that is going in it. We paid a lot of, we used to pay high amounts for wafers and solar, now it has come down a lot. Coming to the policy, coming to the P's, the 4 I's and the 4 P's, the first one is the policy. Policy is very clear, it is decentralized at the provincial level, and each province has to compete with the neighboring province to get it done. Once investment, everything is hand, because there used to be a target for each of the provincial officials to get elevated to the next promotion, or in terms of the employment, in terms of GDP growth in their province or in their county, etc. It used to be so highly competitive that they used to stick to the norms and ensure that they used to compete among the government officials, used to compete among themselves to ensure that the investment comes into to their county. The second one is the people. It is an advantage they had. India also had a big advantage, but it is again a challenge. As long as employment creation doesn't happen, it is a challenge. And it was available for them, and the local talent, what it was. Like my co-panelists were saying, availability of the skilled labor at the local level, that was made available. It may be a manufacturing industry, it may be an office. It happened for one of the multilateral bank, that was where our Indian became the first president of it. He was thinking that it will take 6 months' time by the time he sets up. So first he landed in Shanghai, and he came to see this thing. Then the mayor was asking him how much time it takes for you to come back with shifting your family. He said 6 months. He said, why 6 months? No, nothing is set up. Then he said, how many days you have to have here? He said, I am there for 2 days. Then why don't you see the premises? Next day morning, the premises were arranged, 40,000 square feet premises with table, infrastructure, everything, including the chairman's room, everything is arranged. And they said, you can just bring your computers, plug and play. Then he said, I don't have a secretary. Next day, can you give some time? From the government itself, English-speaking young staff are called. 8 people were made to stand and said, now you can interview and take one of them. So when such a thing happens at speed, it's not that you need lot of infrastructure to do that. It has to be that this has to be done, because there every individual, every city is competing with other city to get that prestigious institution or a prestigious industry in their province or in their city. So finally, the processes, productivity, I don't need to tell because it is linked to the processes. Process, I am very clear because I had a very good experience on the process. In India, we were masters in doing a parallel processing. And I think Professor Venkat can call any of his students and give him a list of 5 things to be done, it will be done. That doesn't happen in China. That's why the process and productivity I always speak is interlinked. In the bank, when one day I was asking my person to do this work, and incidentally, since I was in a bank, it was like bank guarantees were there, LCs are there. Diwali holiday, next day China, we were working. So I said, you don't have work, you please do that work. He said, this is not my job. So at that point we feel that, how come he says no to my work? But the mindset of Chinese have been that I will do 100 similar things, but not 2 different things. They have mastered in the processes, they have mastered in, or the productivity levels, everything, but it has to be tuned only into one particular. Coming back on this, while we were discussing on the sectors like EVs and automobiles, I still feel there is one more opportunity what we have to look at. For example, e-waste technology. India today is producing almost 1.7 million tons of e-waste, out of which hardly 1/3 is getting processed properly. Remaining is going as a hazard or waste that get mixed into it. With the increasing amount of phones or electronic gadgets and the life of these gadgets with the changing technology and the changing models are coming as e-waste. we have to look at this one industry if we can have some before a lot of garbage forms in this. And on the second one, we have been, government has been encouraging on the Swachh Bharat mission and Clean India mission. Even the waste technologies, etc., we have to look at this stage while, because India started growing and the waste part also will be growing. So with this, I end my talk. Thank you.